Welcome back to Universe. I'm Andrew, and today I'm playing Keyforge. So a few months ago, I started a series in which I had 8 decks, and I was opening them to do a little 8-person single elimination sealed tournament. We did the first 2 rounds already, so I'm going to pick back up here with the third matchup. If you missed the previous games, the link will be in the description, but you're welcome to join me for this game in the meanwhile. And to choose between these 4 decks, I'm going to roll a D8, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for the first one. A 2 will be Age of Ascension, and then a D6, 2, 4, 6 will be a 6, Dark Tidings. So Age of Ascension against Dark Tidings, Mass Mutation, and Worlds Collide will be our last matchup for another day. And let's get these open and take a look. All right, we got the Purpleance of Pariah's Feeding Pit. Purpleance is a fun word with Mars, Dis, and Logos houses. I'll go ahead and put the Archon card here with the deck list up on the screen. You can pause that and take a look and read that if you like, although I'm probably going to skip it and just go ahead and play. I prefer to discover the cards as they appear. And then for the Dark Tidings deck, we have Petrichain, the Counselor of Leisure, with Logos, Untamed, and Sanctum. Dark Tidings deck lists are sideways, so you have to pause and tilt your head this time. But again, I'll save that for myself to look over in the future, and we'll just play the matchup as the cards are drawn. All right, so give me a second to get these sleeved up and cleaned up. All right, so the Purpleance will be going first. I've sleeved them up and drawn their opening hand. One thing I'd been playing incorrectly in my previous Keyforge games, I don't know if I could correct it yet, is that the first player actually draws 7 cards. They only play 1, which I did correctly, but they draw 7. So let me take a look. I think they'll choose Logos and play Professor Sutterkin. He says, when he reaps, draw a card for each friendly Logos creature, but creatures enter play exhausted, so you won't be able to reap this turn. Player 1 already has 6 cards in their hand, so they don't draw any at the end of their turn to refill, and they'll end their turn by readying all of their cards. Player 2 should have drawn 6 already, but I'll go ahead and draw for them now. I think player 2 will choose Sanctum. So once they've chosen a house, they can play as many cards of that house this turn, as well as using as many cards of that house as they want this turn. They cannot play or use cards of other houses. So we're going to start out with this Sanctum card, Leery of the Lake. It is a 3-power creature with no armor, but while the tide is high, each friendly creature gets +2 armor. So if this tide card were in play, and the high tide side we're pointing toward player 2, they'd get that bonus. Right now the tide card is not in play. Tide comes with Dark Tidings decks, specifically other decks from other sets don't care about the tide unless they're playing against a Dark Tidings deck, in which case they may well want to mess with that. And I learned something which I played not necessarily incorrectly, but I didn't play it to its full capabilities in a previous video, which is that if the tide exists, or the tide exists rather, all of the time, regardless of who's involved in the game, and can be brought into play via this low tide ability to raise the tide and gain 3 chains. I thought that the tide had to be invoked already by a card effect before players could do that. Apparently that's not the case. So if player 2 wanted that armor, they could take 3 chains right now, but I don't think they will. Chains would impact the size of their hand. So we'll just play this creature exhausted as normal. Then we'll play this action card, Heal or Harm, so it's going to resolve right away, and we get to choose one to fully heal a creature and gain 1 amber. Amber is nice. When you have 6 amber, you can forge a key at the start of your turn, and when you forge your 3rd key, you win. But I think they're going to choose to ready and fight with a friendly creature, so they're going to ready Leery of the Lake and fight against Professor Sutterkin. This 3-power creature will deal 3 damage to this 2-power creature, and this 2-power creature will deal 2 damage to this 3-power creature, so the 3-power creature will survive with 2 damage on it. Still has 3 power, but only 1 health remaining, and the 2-power creature with 3 damage on it will be destroyed. And then player 2 is going to play Seraphic Armor. Again, they can play as many Sanctum cards as they want. This is an upgrade that they're going to attach to Leery of the Lake. Immediately when they play it, they get 1 amber, so again 1/6 of the way toward that first key. They also have a bonus pip, which is to draw a card, so if this is another Sanctum card, they'll be able to play it, but it is not. That's a Logos card, and they're going to attach it here. It's going to give it +1 armor. Also, when they play it, they fully heal it, so they'll remove that 2 damage that it just got, and now it also has an armor. They'll end their turn by drawing until they have 6 cards and readying all their cards. Player 1 is going to choose Mars. They're going to play this upgrade Containment Field. It's another upgrade, but this is an upgrade that you want to put on your opponent's creature If the Larry of the Lake is used from now on, it will be destroyed afterward. However, the containment field is not going to last long because player 1 is also playing Carpet Flotsam. They immediately get 1 amber, and if there are no friendly creatures in play, deal 4 damage to each creature. So the armor from the Seraphic armor prevents 1 damage to the Larry, and the other 3 damage will kill it. So this upgrade is going to the discard pile along with both of these cards. Player 1 could have just discarded that containment field. You can also discard a card of the house you chose, but thought it'd be more fun to just put it on the close-up screen first. And then player 1's also going to play Xanthix Harvester. It can't be used while it has a non-Mars neighbor. Currently doesn't have any neighbors, but it won't be able to be used because it's going to be exhausted. But when it reaps, it gets an additional amber. Normally reaping yields 1 amber. The Harvester gets 2, but not this turn. So they'll end their turn, draw 3 more cards. Now player 2 has an interesting decision. They're going to choose Logos, and they have this card Final Analysis, which destroys all creatures, but each player gets to draw a card for each of their creatures that was destroyed. I'm wondering if we should just discard this card or play it to destroy the Harvester. Cannot be used while it has a non-Mars neighbor. So it's a bit of a gamble because if they choose a different house, they'll probably play a creature, which will give the Harvester a non-Mars neighbor unless they choose Mars, in which case it'll get more Mars neighbors. They'll be able to reap for 2, and things should be kind of bad, but we'd get to let them draw a card if we destroy it, and it might just sit here being useless. So I think I'm going to just discard it and hopefully let it sit there being useless. If my opponent had played another Mars creature to go along with it, it would be a little bit more threatening, I think. But by itself, less worried. I'm also going to play Infomorph, which has 4 power, but it only has the ability of Enhance for 2 draw icons, which we've probably already seen one of. That's that Seraphic Armor icon. That's probably where that came from. It's during deck generation, this Infomorph's Enhance added that icon on, but otherwise, Infomorph isn't going to do anything except for be a 4 power creature. Also play Armadrone, which has 3 armor and 1 power, and when it fights, we get to steal 1. But again, not this turn. It will also play Information Exchange, lets us steal 1 amber from our opponent. If they had stolen it from us, we could steal 2 instead, but that's not the case. And we'll end our turn by readying and drawing 4 more cards. Unfortunately for player 2, player 1 did draw a couple more Mars cards, and they're both creatures, and I think they're going to go ahead and play them. So we'll go ahead and reap with the Harvester for 2 amber. Reaping is an ability that any creature can do, which just means you exhaust it in order to gain 1 amber, but because of that reap effect, we get 1 extra amber. The upgraded cards in the newest set that's going to be coming out, I'm recording this on January 1st, and so it should be just within the next couple months this year. Winds of Exchange will be releasing, and there'll be upgraded wording for cards like that. It will say after reap instead of reap, which means the creature has to reap and survive the reap, which almost always happens. More relevant for after fight effects. Also play Mindworm. It is 1 power elusive, meaning the first attack against it is canceled basically each turn, and then before it fights the creature it fights deals damage equal to its power to each of its neighbors. So it's a powerful way to mess with your opponent's board. And we'll play Zizzixix Shockworm, 3 power. After an enemy creature reaps, sun it and 1 armor. And I'm going to put that on the other side of our Harvester here so that it has 2 Mars neighbors and doesn't have to worry about its drawback of having a non-Mars neighbor. Draw 2 more cards to end our turn. All right, player 2 is going to choose Untamed, and I don't know why I said I'm recording this on the 1st. It's January 2nd, not that it matters. Speaking of not mattering, I'm going to play a couple creatures that don't do anything right away. We've got a 5 power creature that destroys an artifact, but nobody has an artifact quite yet. Also going to play a Flumph that when it fights, it can get +1 powers counters onto beasts. It also has Skirmish, so it doesn't take any damage in return when fighting, which is nice, but not relevant this turn. Fertility Chant is going to give us 4 big amber. That's going to put us at the checking threshold of 6, meaning we are threatening to forge a key. If player 2 starts their next turn with that 6 amber, they will be able to spend it to forge a key. But the play effect is that the opponent also gets 2, and then they're going to play Reap or Sow, and the question is, do they want to ready and reap with a friendly creature or distribute 3 +1 power counters? Ready and reap would be +1 amber. Nobody has a reap ability. It'd be a great thing to use with something like Xanthix Harvester and get an extra amber out of that deal. But as it is, I think I'm going to take the power counters. We're going to put 2 on the Armadrone because the 3 armor is a huge annoying factor. Now that it has 3 power, it's going to be super annoying for fighting. And the third one I'll just put on Flumph because it has Skirmish, so it's already a good fighter. Fighting does not win you the game, though, so I wonder if just having a 7th amber would have been better. But that's all player 2 can do. They draw up to 6 and pass. Oh, and I totally forgot about this shockworm. After an enemy creature reaps, stun it. So if they had reaped, their creature would have been stunned. That's not a huge deal, but it's another argument for taking the power counters. So player 1 has an interesting choice. They have no Mars cards in hand. They could use all 3 of these Mars creatures. They would get 2 more amber at least. Probably reap with this. I think the Mindworm's best attack would be to attack the Mollymawk, which would cause it to deal 5 damage to the Flumph and kill it, and deal 5 damage to the Armadrone, which would be left with 1 health. And then Mollymawk would have 1 damage on it, and Mindworm would die. So basically trading the Mindworm for the Flumph and some damage here, which doesn't seem amazing. Getting 2 amber here is nice, and then maybe 1 more here, or we could use this to finish off the Armadrone, which is okay. I think instead I'm going to play Hysteria. So we're choosing Dis, return each creature to its owner's hand. We're going to have to pick up all our Mars creatures. Their power counters are wasted, and all these creatures go back to their hand. Of course, they can replay them, but it'll take them at least 2 turns because they were from 2 different houses. And we'll discard the second copy of Hysteria. I'm going to play Schuler, 5 power play. If your opponent has 4 more amber, steal 1. And this is the biggest reason I chose to go Dis. It's because we get to take them away from forging that key, at least immediately. So we'll play this 5 power creature. Also going to play Streak, 2 power elusive. And while it is not on a flank, your opponent refills their hand to 1 less card. So not on a flank means if it's not on the end of our battle line. So right now it is on a flank because there's nothing on this side, but we're going to put a creature there now, which is this Amber Imp, which has elusive, and after a creature reaps, stun it. So we have another anti-reap ability. And now because we were returned 3 Mars creatures, we do have a hand of 4. End our turn and draw 2. Alright, it's a lot of cards in hand now. You only refill your hand up to 6, and because of the streak, we only refill up to 5 unless we get rid of that. We currently have 10. And we're going to choose Untamed. So first of all, we've got All Tied Up. Going to give us an amber right away from the symbol on the left side of the card. It says if the tide is high, gain another amber. Otherwise, raise the tide. So now the tide is going to be high in favor of player 2 on this side, which doesn't do anything, except that other card effects may refer to it. And then the tide is low for player 1, and they can choose to gain 3 chains in order to raise the tide in their favor, which would rotate this as so. But only player 2 has cards that care about the tide, and their next card is not tide related at all, so we'll see if the tide comes up at all. But we're going to play Keyfrog. If it is destroyed, they can forge a key at the current cost. Currently they have 6 amber, which is the current cost of a key, the current and default cost. They also have the Flumph and the Mollymawk that we already saw. Another chance to destroy an artifact, but no artifacts. They have 6 cards. Normally they would refill only to 5 because of the streak, but that doesn't mean they have to lose a card. They just don't draw or lose anything. So no more Dis cards in hand. The question is, do we do Dis or Mars? Because now we got 4 Mars in hand. Do we want to use cards or play cards? Killing the Keyfrog probably doesn't make sense. We could just reap 3 times, but the Amber Imp doesn't distinguish between our creatures and theirs, so we would be stunning all of our own creatures when we did that. So let's just diversify and draw new cards by choosing Mars. We're going to replay the Zizix Shockworm. These are all exhausted, but I'm not going to be using them. Just going to be ending my turn, so I'm going to go ahead and put them out ready. Got the Mindworm and the Xanthix Harvester, and a new card, the Tixel Beambuckler. When we play it, we can deal 2 damage to a creature and move it to either flank. We could kill the Keyfrog, but then it would be dead, and they'd get to forge a key. They're going to get to forge a key anyway, though, as soon as we pass the turn, because we can't take them off it. So we may as well kill the creature that we can. That's 1 fewer creature that could reap for them, or 1 fewer opportunity for them to mess with us later on. So we'll kill that, which means they immediately get to spend 6 amber to forge a key, flipping that over, bringing them 1/3 of the way toward victory. And we'll end our turn. 4 more cards. Would have been nice to threaten our key as well. That would a good argument for Dis, I suppose. But we're staying at 5. Player 2 is just going to grow their board as well, replaying the Armadrone and the Infomorph that we've already seen. Again, these are exhausted. We're not going to be using them. And then we'll play Theory or Conjecture. And we're going to choose to archive the top 2 cards of our deck. I think this will be a little bit off screen, but there's a little archive pile here. Player 1 has theirs here. And these are cards that they can look at any time, and at the start of their turn, they can choose to add all of their archive to their hand or not. and that can make for a bigger turn in the future. But nothing for now, so they'll pass back. Drawing actually only 2 more, up to 5 because of that streak. Player 1 only has 1 Mars card in hand, but I think they're going to go with Mars rather than growing their battle line necessarily. In fact, I think they're going to be shrinking it. So we're going to start out by attacking with Tixel Beam Buckler. It has 4 power and 1 armor. And we're going to attack the Armadrone, which has 3 armor and 1 power. So 4 power is going to be dealing 4 damage here. 3 of it's blocked, and 1 of it will go through. 1 power will kill a 1 power, or 1 damage will kill a 1 power creature. 1 damage is being dealt back, but the Beam Buckler has an armor, so it doesn't take it, and the Armadrone is dead. Then the Mindworm is going to, these close ranks, so the Mindworm is going to attack Mollymawk, but before the fight, creature it is fighting deals damage equal to its power to its neighbors. So 5 damage being dealt to Flumph and Infomorph will kill both of those. And then they exchange damage. So Mindworm is going to take 5 and die. And the Mollymawk is going to take 1. Then I'm going to play this card here, Martian Hounds, which says choose a creature, and for each damaged creature, give the chosen creature 2 +1 power counters. There's 1 damaged creature on the board. I'm going to choose the Streak to gain 2 +1 power counters. And then I'm going to reap with both of these creatures, and due to the effect of Amber Imp, they're both going to become stunned, which means next time they're used, their only use will be to drop their stun status. So our Mars creatures are kind of downgraded, but we are going to get 1, 2, plus a bonus 1 from the reap ability there. 3 more Amber, which is nice for now, and we cleared out our opponent's board pretty much. So I think that was a good Mars turn. We only played 1 card, so we refill our hand by just 1. So player 2 is going to choose Sanctum. They've got 5 Sanctum cards in hand. We'll play Ophion, Lands Chosen, who actually dislikes the Tide. He says as long as the Tide is low, he gets 3 armor and a reap ability, but the Tide is high for player 2, so that will not apply. And I don't think there's any way of giving up the Tide, so player 1 would have to choose to take it for that to happen. So for now, he's just going to be a 3 power creature. We'll play Sir Bever, 1 power, 5 armor, and taunt, which means his neighbors cannot be attacked. I think I'll actually put him over here next to the Mollymawk. Put him forward a little bit to remind us of the taunt. Play a Staunch Knight for power and 2 armor and +2 power while on a flank. Again, meaning he's on the end of the battle line, which he is. So that's a 6 power knight. Play Hammergram, which is an action, deals 3 damage to a creature and stuns it. I think I'm going to do that 3 damage to Streak. Because of the +2 power counters, it has 4 power and doesn't die from 3 damage. Although it does also get stunned. That just doesn't help us with its ability. And I'm also going to play Cleansing Wave, which heals 1 damage from each creature, and we gain an Amber for each one. So we heal 1 from Mollymawk and from Streak, but we get 2 Amber. Probably not a big difference between 2 and 3 damage on the Streak, so I don't mind healing it for 1. So that was all 5 of the cards from our hand, and unfortunately we only get to draw 5 more. So as player 1 starts their turn, they get to spend 6 Amber to forge a key. In fact, that is not optional. If you can afford a key, you have to spend the Amber on it. I'm kind of tempted to choose this, but we wouldn't get that much done. So let's just slide over, make some room for some Logos creatures. We're going to do Logos this turn. First of all, I'm going to play Eureka because it has the Alpha ability, which means it can only be played if it is the first thing we do. We gain an Amber immediately because of the Pip. Then the play ability gives us 2 more, and we archive 2 cards at random from our hand. So I'm going to use a D20, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. The second card is archived, and it's also in 5s. We've got the first card. So hopefully that doesn't mess with our Logos turn too much. Did a little bit. Next up, we'll play Wild Wormhole. We get another Amber, and we play the top card of our deck, whatever it is. And it is Vezima Think Drone, a 3 power creature. Reap, you may archive a friendly creature or artifact from play. Guess we'll just add them to the end here. And our last Logos card that didn't get archived is a 6 power Brain Eater. After a creature is destroyed fighting it, we get to draw a card. So play that and ready up. And then draw 5 more with threatening a key. All right, so player 2 thought they were ahead for a little while. They got the first key, but now they're behind for sure. I think player 2 is going to choose Sanctum. I'm sick of this thing. So I'm going to fight it with Sir Bever. It's only 1 in power, but because it is elusive, the first attack against it is basically canceled anyway. We'll then attack with Orpheon against it. It's only 3 power, so it's going to take 4 damage because of the 2 +1 power counters. which is going to kill Orpheon, but it's also going to kill the Streak because it's now a 4-power creature with 5 damage. So now player 2 is going to redraw to their full hand size of 6, which is nice. Costs them 2 attacks and a creature. Can also attack with Staunch Knight. It's on the flank, so it gets +2 power, so it's 6 power and 2 armor. And I totally forgot that I should have been able to draw a card when I played it. I don't think I did that, but it doesn't matter now. By now, we've refilled our hand at least once. So unless that top card had been Sanctum, could be a big mistake. But I'm going to attack, I don't know. So the question is, what is our opponent going to choose? Because if they choose Mars, they've got 2 stunned creatures anyway. But so it probably makes sense to take out the Beam Buckler just because it's a big creature. The ability on the Think Drone, I don't think is a huge deal. You can kill the Brain Eater, that's their biggest creature, and it has a powerful ability, but it's their only Logos creature. Or I could kill their biggest discard, which is a Shuler. We can't kill the Amber Imp because it's elusive. I feel like all of those have good arguments. I'm going to attack the Brain Eater because it has the scariest ability. So 6 power will kill 6 power. 6 power back, but blocked by 2 armor means the Knight takes 4. Now they do also have a couple cards to play. So we're going to play Bulwark. Could have actually played that first, but I don't think it matters. So Assault 2 and his neighbors have Assault 2, meaning when they attack, they deal 2 damage immediately. I'm going to put it over here, and we'll also play Orion, the Circumspect, 3 power and 1 armor. When he reaps, gain Amber equal to his armor, which is 1, at least currently. And then we'll ready up and draw to a nice full hand size of 6. Player 1's Amber didn't get interrupted, so they'll go ahead and spend 6 to forge their second of 3 keys. Right, player 1 is going to choose Dis. We're going to play Coal the Weak, gives us an Amber, and destroys the least powerful enemy creature, which is just the creature with the smallest power number. There's no other calculations. 1 is the smallest, so Sir Brever is gone. Then they're going to play Not Finished With You. That will yield another Amber. They're going to choose any number of creatures from their discard pile to shuffle into their deck. And I think they're going to choose a couple of Logos creatures, the Brain Eater and the Professor Sutterkin from a long time ago, to up their Logos odds coming into the last portion of their deck here. We're going to have Shuler attack. He's a 5 power creature. We're going to attack Bulwark, who has 4 power and 1 armor. So 1 damage of the 5 is prevented. 4 will kill 4. Assault does not help on defense, but he's going to deal 4 back to the Shuler. Amber Imp is going to reap for 1, which means he stuns himself from his own ability. And then we're going to play Overlord Greeking, 7 power. After an enemy creature is destroyed, fighting him, put that creature into play under your control. So very cool ability. We'll see if it comes up, if we can manage to pull off any more Dis turns, and end our turn with 3 more cards. Battle line closes up here. Player 2 is going to choose Untamed, and they're going to take their archive into their hand. So they have to take the whole archive. Again, they can't choose just part of it. They're going to play one of the cards, but not the other one. First of all, we've got 2 copies of Persistent Hunting. So that's going to give us 2 Amber. For playing each of them, we get to choose a house each time and exhaust each creature of the chosen house. So of course, we're going to choose Mars and Dis. So no matter which of those 2 houses they choose, assuming they choose one of them, they won't be able to use any of those creatures on their next turn. They're not stunned, so they'll still get to ready all of them at the end of the turn, but they won't be able to use any of them. We're also going to attack with Mollymawk, so we're going to be able to kill something. Unfortunately, the Amber Imp is still elusive, because that would be my favorite. So instead, we're going to kill the Beam Buckler because it is not stunned, and it's their biggest thing. So 5 damage, blocked by 1. 4 will kill the 4, and it deals 4 back. Mollymawk has 4 damage out of its 5 power. We're going to play Youngest Bear, which is just 2 power, but when it reaps, we can reap with one of its neighbors. And then we're going to play Reap or Sow, and this time we will choose to ready and reap with a friendly creature. So the bear will give us 1 Amber, and then we get to ready and reap with a neighbor, which is going to be Urian, and he reaps, and he also gives us Amber equal to his armor, which is 1, so we go up to 7 armor. Unfortunately, these are both going to be stunned again due to the Amber Imp and actually the Shockworm. I don't think they stacked. I think a creature can only be reaped or stunned once, not twice. No more Untamed, so we'll pass. Okay, player 2 is looking to tie things up with their second key. Let's see if we can threaten our third here for player 1. Well, the joke is on them because we're playing Logos. We don't care about any of these exhausted creatures. Let's make some room again. We're going to take our archive into our hand. Let's play Phila the Researcher. This is a new card I haven't seen before. or new to me card I haven't seen before. She's elusive, and whenever a creature is played adjacent to her, we'll get to draw a card. So let's put her over there, and I'm going to play the Helper Bot next to her, another 1-power creature. When we play it, we can play a non-logos card this turn. So we'll draw a card from Phila and save that, being able to play a non-logos card. We'll play Pip just to emphasize our point of this deck, apparently. Creatures cannot reap unless they want to be stunned. So 2-power creature. This one, again, only applies to enemies, unlike the Amber Imp. Hexion says when he's destroyed, archive him and the top card of our deck. Archimedes is elusive, 2-power. Each of its neighbors has, when it's destroyed, archive it. And Brain Eater says 6-power. Well, we already saw the Brain Eater. We can still play a non-logos card. A lot of creatures. I think I would like to play this Rebellious Dust Imp. So it's left its normal house of Dis, and it has joined Mars. When it's destroyed, we get 2 amber. We'll just put that on the end over here. Draw 4 cards, and ready everything. It's 13 creatures in play. That one stopped player 2 from forging their second key, bringing the game to a tie. It's actually very close, other than obviously the number of creatures in play. Player 1 is just a few logos reaps from claiming victory. Stuns be darned. I think player 2 is going to have to go logos, and I wanted to save this card until it was like relevant, but I think you also just have to play a card when you have the turn for it. And we're doing logos, so we're going to get an amber. This is our first artifact. This is a card that comes into play and stays in play, but it isn't a creature. Keys cost +3, but after a key is forged, it's destroyed. However, the next key forged will end the game, so that part doesn't matter. It's just going to be the next key forged is +3, and player 2 is banking on the fact that player 1 is going to have to deal with that before they are, although somebody's going to have to get to 9 amber either way. I think they're also going to play Submersive Principle. Each player loses an amber. If the tide is high, which it is for player 2, each player loses half their amber instead, rounding down the loss. I'm actually going to rewind that. Let's play the key lock second. Play this first when we only have 1 amber, so half of 1 rounded down is 0. Player 1 loses 1. Half of 3 rounded down is 1. Then we'll play the key lock and get our second amber. So now we're tied on amber, but definitely not on the board. And then we've just got 3 creatures. So Australis Seaborg, is that what that says? Has a reap ability that's not going to be relevant this turn. Another Brain Eater on this side of the table is not relevant this turn. And Talmage Steelheart says play, give it a +1 counter for each card you played this turn, including this one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. So that's a nice chunky 8-power creature. Too bad it doesn't reap for that much. And with no ready logos creatures, that's all they can do. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Their deck is empty, so they'll reshuffle it. The discard pile becomes the new deck. And let's see who wins the race to 9 amber. Player 1 reaps with all 6 of their logos creatures. They get up to 8 amber, which is not quite threatening the key. They have a couple ways to draw cards, but only if they give up the opportunity of reaping with one of their creatures. For example, if instead of reaping with Helperbot, they attack Mollymawk, Mollymawk will die, Helperbot will die, and then they can play the logos creature from their hand next to Phila to draw another card. But that's 1 fewer reap. Also, the Brain Eater can kill something and draw a card, but that's 1 fewer reap. But if they just do 6 reaps, they're guaranteed not to threaten a key this turn, so we may as well go for the gamble, right? That's more fun. So let's do it. Let's attack Helperbot into Mollymawk. Helperbot dies. Mollymawk dies. And now player 1 can replay this from the beginning of the game. Professor Sutterkin, 2-power, reap, draw a card for each friendly logos creature. We won't be able to do that this turn, unfortunately. But we get to draw a card from Phila the Researcher. I think it's safe to reap with Phila, so we'll get that and stun her. I'm running out of stuns, though. I think I will have the Brain Eater attack. These two are actually too strong for it to kill, and they would trade. So let's kill the Seaborg. Take 4, but draw a card. I'm going to reap with Archimedes. 4 amber. We're going to have to treat this Enrage token as a stun. Go ahead and play Library of Babel. It's an artifact, and as an action we can draw a card, but because it's going to enter play exhausted, we can't do it this turn. I'm going to play another Helperbot. So 1 power, we can play another non-logos card this turn and put it all the way on the other end over here. Not sure if you can even see that far. I think the non-logos card I'm going to play is Carpet Flotsam, just for the Amber Pip. If there are no friendly creatures in play, deal 4 to each creature, but that's not the case. And even though they're going to get stunned, let's just do a couple more reaps, bringing us up to 7. We could do fights. And we could have them get archived with Archimedes, but I don't think that's hugely beneficial. The two reasonably sized creatures we could kill are stunned anyway. So we'll stun both of these again with enrage tokens because I'm out of stun tokens, and ready the creatures and the artifact to end the turn, drawing 2 more. Player 2 is not dead yet, but they are in trouble. They can kill stuff, but there's no one thing that is the most threatening. A lot of stunned creatures. This Professor Stutterskin is dangerous because if they reap with him and they get to draw a card for each Logos creature they have, that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 card draws. So let's kill that with the Brain Eater. So we are choosing Logos here on the side for player 2. Brain Eater's going to fight that, take 2 damage, kill it, draw a card with the Brain Eater's ability. Reaping is tempting because they do need Amber as well. So this 9-power creature could attack and kill something, but I think they just need the Amber. Gain the Amber, get a stun, and then play a couple more creatures. Old Egad is 1 power, 2 armor when he's destroyed. Ward each of his neighbors. Ward prevents bad stuff in the future. And Vesphalon, Theorist, is a 2-power creature with elusive. When it reaps, you choose a house, reveal the top card of your deck. If it matches, it goes to your archive and you get an Amber. Otherwise, you discard it. It's probably not going to come up because they're going to have to end their turn there and draw 1. All right, so we're starting our turn with 7 Amber, but we need 9 because of the Universal Key Lock. I did kill our Professor. That would have been fun to draw an extra 6 cards. We can play next to Phyla again and draw another, though. Dis is the house that will let us play the most cards. So I'm going to play Charette over here. She's a 4-power creature. When played, capture 3. And that means we're going to take 3 Amber from them and put it onto this creature. And if the creature dies, player 2 will get their Amber back. But until then, it is being held hostage. We played next to Phyla, so we get to draw a card, which shuffles our discard pile back into our deck. We can activate Amber Imp so that it's no longer stunned, and I'll swap out this token just so that one's correct at least. We'll play Lash of Broken Dreams. As an action, we can make our opponent's keys cost +3 during their next turn, but again, we can't activate that this turn. We also can't activate this library because we didn't choose Logos. And we're going to want 2 more Amber, otherwise what's the point? So we actually do need to reap with these 2. I thought it'd be fun to choose Dis to use Overlord Grekking and kill something and steal it, but we just need the Amber. So that's 2 more stuns. And we got 2 more creatures. Yerk, play it. When you play it, choose and discard a card. I guess I'll discard this extra Zizasix Shockworm. And I'll play a Spider 2-power Skirmish. When it attacks, it deals its damage first and doesn't take any in return if it kills its target. And it has poison while attacking a flank creature. Poison being lethal damage. I'll put both of those over here on the left side. Ready this. Draw 4 more, and now we are at check, threatening to win the game. And unfortunately, player 2 does not have the ability to take away any Amber from player 1. So the best they can do is just play out their turn and try to get as much Amber of their own just for fun, I suppose. They actually did have a way to win, I think, but they did not draw the exact card they needed from the reshuffled deck, which odds are they would not get it, but would have been cool to see. So we're going to choose Untamed. We can drop the stun on the youngest bear. We'll play All Tied Up. We gain 1 Amber, or a second one if the tide is high, which it is. So we get 2 Amber. I'm going to play Witch of the Dawn. It's a 3-power creature. When we play it, we can take creature from our discard pile and put it into our hand. I'm going to get this Mollymock. When we play it, we can destroy an artifact. So I'm going to go ahead and play that and destroy the Universal Key Lock. We'll also play Reap or Sow to ready and reap with a friendly creature. So we're going to ready the youngest bear and reap with it, gaining 1 Amber. It becomes stunned, but its ability, it says we can reap with one of its neighbors. So we'll reap with Urian for 1, but his ability says we get Amber equal to his armor. So we get a second one. He gets stunned. Oh, he was already stunned. Also, we would not be able to do that. We'd have to choose the Brain Eater instead and get 1 fewer Amber. But now we have 4 Amber, and if they had not played Charette, we would have 7 Amber. And if this Untamed card I drew, which is a second copy of Reap or Sow, had been the Key Frog, which I'll show it to you now, we could have played it. Although only now I'm realizing it has to be destroyed to trigger, so he wouldn't even be able to cheat out the victory. But after destroying our own key lock and dropping the requirement down to 6, player 2 would have been able to reach the necessary amount if player 1 hadn't played Charette and if they had ability to kill Key Frog somehow. So that didn't work out for myriad reasons. Player 2 has to pass the turn. Player 1 spends the requisite Amber, whether it be 6 or 9, in order to forge their 3rd key, and they win the game. I have to say these anti-reaping stun cards are hilarious considering the amount of reaping player 1 did with their own creatures, stunning them, but they just have so many creatures, and I guess player 2 had very little to no creature control, or I just wasn't using it properly. Maybe they should have been using their Sanctum creatures more aggressively. Not sure, hard to say, but there's definitely some cool synergies going on, especially in the player 1 deck. Player 2 actually had a surprising amount of anti-synergy with their own Tide mechanic. So this card was sitting in their hand for a while. The Seneschal Sargassa. After a player raises the tide, a creature they control captures 2 from their opponent. So if player 2 had played that card, player 1 could have chosen to use the low tide ability of taking on 3 chains in order to raise the tide for themselves, which would have triggered the Seneschal, and they would have stolen or captured 2 amber onto whatever creature they wanted to hold it hostage onto. So that was a risky move to try to play this card, which is why they didn't. And of course, there was that monk we saw earlier, which was weaker when the tide was low, which was definitely not the case for player 2. Just recently, they drew Orpheal Sees Chosen, which I assume is a paired card, meaning they appear together in deck lists. I'm not sure, just a guess. But this one is strong when the tide is high, but it just appeared too late for them to really be able to make use of it. So anyway, that is the round 3 matchup of the quarterfinals in this Keyforge tournament. If you missed the previous games, go ahead and check the links in the description if you want. Stay tuned for the 4th one, which will be, was it Mass Mutation and whatever the other box was. And then we'll proceed on with the winning decks, pairing off against each other until we have the 3rd final round. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Subscribe so we can get more subscribers, and bye.